Good evening and welcome to tonight's top story. In a bold and historic move, the Republic of Togo is taking a powerful stand against decades of economic exploitation, and the world is watching. For far too long, France has reaped massive financial benefits from its former colonies in West Africa, with analysts estimating that over $240 billion has been extracted from the region through unfair trade agreements, currency manipulation, and resource exploitation. But now Togo is saying no more. President 4. And key government officials are demanding a restructuring of Togo's relationship with France, particularly concerning the controversial CFA franc, a colonial-era currency still controlled by the French treasury. Critics say this currency has shackled West African economies for generations, draining wealth and stifling growth. But that's not all. Togo is also launching investigations into French-owned businesses accused of underpaying taxes, underpricing exports, and failing to reinvest profits into the local economy. The government is now drafting new laws that prioritize local ownership of natural resources, fair trade, and economic sovereignty. In a recent speech, a government spokesperson declared, "Togo is not a colony. We will no longer accept the plundering of our land, our labor, or our future." Across West Africa, this move is being seen as part of a growing wave of Pan-African resistance to neo-colonial control, with countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger already distancing themselves from French influence and calling for regional solidarity. Public reaction in Togo has been electric. Citizens took to the streets in support of the government's stance, waving national flags and chanting for freedom, justice, and African dignity. The message is clear. Togo is reclaiming its voice, its economy, and its place in a new Africa, one that no longer bows to colonial leftovers, but instead stands tall with pride, unity, and independence. We'll continue to follow this story as it develops.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
Let's dive into a story that's not just making headlines but shaking up the very foundations of global finance and power dynamics. Imagine tiny Togo, a West African nation, a country often overlooked on the world stage, taking on France, a global heavyweight, a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and a nation with a long history of influence in Africa. At the heart of this standoff, a staggering $240 billion. That's the estimated wealth France allegedly controls, a sum that represents more than the GDP of many African nations combined. Wealth many say rightfully belongs to its former African colonies, including Togo, wealth accumulated over decades of colonial rule and its aftermath. It's like your landlord secretly draining your bank account for decades, leaving you struggling to make ends meet while they prosper. Togo may be small in size and economic power, but its challenge is huge, a monumental task that could reshape the future of Franco-African relations. The government and people are demanding answers, demanding transparency and accountability for what they see as a historical injustice. Why does France still hold the keys to their economic future? Why are these nations still tied to a financial system that many believe perpetuates dependency? This isn't just politics, it's a fight for economic justice, a battle against a system that many believe has systematically disadvantaged African nations for generations, and freedom from financial chains that have lasted generations, chains that have stifled growth and hindered progress across the continent. For years there were whispers and quiet protests, hushed conversations behind closed doors, and a simmering resentment that never quite boiled over. Now Togo's leaders are making noise, taking a stand on the international stage, openly accusing France of modern-day colonialism, using banks, not armies, using financial institutions to maintain control and extract wealth. It's a bold, risky move, a daring gamble that could have significant repercussions for Togo and the wider region. David versus a financial Goliath, a battle against a system that seems almost impossible to overcome. But this is bigger than Togo, bigger than just one nation's struggle. It's about Africa's future, the future of an entire continent, whether a continent rich in resources, blessed with abundant natural wealth, can finally control its own destiny, and harness its resources for the benefit of its own people. That $240 billion isn't just a number. It's not just an abstract figure on a balance sheet, it's generations of lost opportunity, decades of missed potential and unrealized dreams, money that could have built schools, providing education and opportunity for millions of children, hospitals and roads, essential infrastructure that could have transformed communities and boosted economic growth. Togo is demanding that this historical injustice be addressed, that the wrongs of the past be acknowledged and rectified. And now the world is watching this small nation take its shot, holding its breath to see if David can finally overcome Goliath. The outcome could change the balance of power in Africa, potentially ushering in a new era of economic independence and self-determination. Stay tuned, this is just the beginning of what promises to be a long and dramatic saga. To understand Togo's anger, let's rewind to the scramble for Africa. Togo was carved up by European powers, first as a German colony, then split between Britain and France after World War I. France's part became modern Togo, but independence in 1960 wasn't a clean break. France left behind cooperation accords, agreements that kept control over Togo's economy, especially its money. Togo got a flag, but France kept the purse strings. This was colonialism rebranded, control without the bad PR. Today, every economic decision in Togo is haunted by these old deals. That's the root of today's $240 billion confrontation. Here's how France maintains its influence, a subtle yet powerful grip through the CFA franc. This currency acts as a cornerstone of their economic relationship. 14 African countries, a significant portion of the continent, including Togo, a nation striving for true economic sovereignty, continue to use this currency, a legacy of a bygone era. It was created by France in the 1940s, during the height of its colonial power. The catch? A significant condition is attached. These nations are obligated to deposit a staggering half of their foreign reserves directly into the French treasury. This is where the core of the issue lies. France then invests this money, generating profits and bolstering its own economy. So, if Togo finds itself in need of a loan for development or infrastructure, it sometimes faces the ironic situation of having to borrow its own cash back, and of course, with interest. A financial burden that weighs heavily. Imagine handing your entire paycheck over to a friend for safekeeping, and then being forced to pay them a fee just to access your own hard-earned money. This system effectively gives France significant control over the monetary policy of these nations, all the way from thousands of miles away. Togo, for example, cannot independently devalue its currency, nor can it make crucial independent economic moves without first seeking and obtaining Paris's explicit approval. Critics vehemently call it monetary servitude, a modern form of economic colonialism. It's a leash, a financial tether that keeps African economies perpetually dependent on France. Adding insult to injury, France also enjoys first dibs on vital resources, including valuable commodities like uranium, essential for nuclear power, and phosphates, effectively locking out local African businesses from participating in their own economies. The inevitable result? An economic system deliberately designed to disproportionately benefit France at the expense of Africa's progress. Togo's ongoing fight is fundamentally about breaking free from this deeply entrenched cycle of dependency. The stakes in this struggle are incredibly high, but the core demand for change is remarkably simple. Nothing less than real, unfettered independence. The world is watching with keen interest to see if Togo can finally summon the strength to cut the leash and forge its own destiny. After decades of frustration, Togo is pushing back, loudly. The government and a new generation of activists are calling out the system, demanding a total overhaul of their financial relationship with France. They're questioning the CFA franc itself, proposing radical reform or a new, independent currency. This isn't just a top-down movement. Young Togolese are organizing, protesting, and using social media to demand change. They want the wealth from Togo's resources to benefit their own communities. The government is renegotiating contracts and seeking new partners beyond France, looking to China, Turkey, and Brazil. It's a strategic pivot, not just talk. Togo is sending a clear message: the old way is over. A new chapter, written by Togolese hands, is beginning. For Togolese people, this isn't just about abstract billions or distant policy debates. It goes much deeper than that. It's fundamentally about the fabric of daily life and the inherent dignity of every individual. It's about the ability to live a life with basic necessities and opportunities. Money locked away in Paris means fewer hospitals can be built and maintained. It means inadequate roads, hindering trade and access to essential services. And it means a continued struggle to secure clean water at home, a basic human right. Togolese farmers work incredibly hard, toiling in the fields to provide for their families and communities. But global market prices and a foreign-controlled currency, the CFA franc, continue to keep them struggling, limiting their potential for prosperity. The result of these systemic challenges? A persistent cycle of poverty and a devastating brain drain. This leads to a situation where young, talented individuals feel compelled to leave for better opportunities abroad, seeking a brighter future elsewhere. Ultimately, Togo's fight is about creating a country, a nation, a place where people genuinely want to stay, actively build their lives, and thrive within their own communities. It represents a beacon of hope, a symbol of what's possible. It's a promise, a commitment that Togolese wealth will finally and directly benefit the Togolese people, enriching their lives and futures. This is about more than just national pride or symbolic gestures. It's about tangible, real-world improvements in the lives of ordinary citizens. It's about providing better schools for children, creating more jobs for adults, and securing brighter futures for generations to come. For everyday Togolese men, women, and children, this is a fundamental fight for a better life, a more just and equitable society. The stakes are deeply personal, touching every aspect of their existence, and the hope for a brighter tomorrow is palpable and real. Positive change here in Togo could serve as a powerful inspiration for millions across the entire African continent, demonstrating what's possible with determination and unity. That's precisely why this fight truly matters, not just for Togo, but for the future of Africa. Togo's bold move is sending shockwaves across Africa. 13 other CFA franc nations are watching closely. If Togo succeeds, they might follow. It's like one brave tenant challenging an unfair landlord, inspiring the whole neighborhood. Countries like Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire face similar struggles. Togo's defiance is a real-time case study and a potential roadmap. France is nervous. Its influence and access to African resources are at stake. Beyond the CFA zone, Togo's stand taps into a wider African push for true decolonization. This is about fair investment and Africans benefiting from their own wealth. Togo is holding up a mirror, and all of Africa is watching. Togo's stand is more than news, it's a turning point in Africa's story. The first fight was for political freedom, now it's for economic control. True sovereignty means pulling your own economic levers, not having them controlled from abroad. The pressure is intense, but there's a new confidence and unity in Africa that demand a relationship based on fairness, not old dominance. This is about hope, a future where Africa's wealth builds African prosperity. It's not about charity, it's about justice and empowerment. Togo's fight is Africa's fight, a declaration that economic subservience is ending. The outcome isn't certain, but the direction is clear. Africa is claiming its future. A new, truly independent era is dawning.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.